Good morning and welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Grubb here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering motivation on this year, Monday morning, rise and shine and give God the glory. And this morning here, I'm looking at the topic, do not create an Orwellian dystopia. It will become your reality. So do not create an Orwellian dystopia. It will become your reality. So welcome again to our live talk program. Hopefully you had a blessed weekend and you're ready to take on the challenges and grab some of the opportunities that come your way for this work week. Let us pray. Our Father who art in heaven, I thank you, dear Lord, for the blessings of today, for your word, and for the wisdom that you give us and the insights that you give us. I pray, Lord, that you may bless us as we study together. This is my prayer in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. So I'm looking at this very interesting topic this week. Share with you this thought that is an interesting thought, I think, that I'm going to explore from the point of view of something I've heard over the years, and is this thing called an Orwellian Orwellian dystopia. And this is an idea that was put forward by a famous author years back, and I've over the years I've heard people use this concept here about an Orwellian dystopia, and I've been always fascinated with it. So the person that came up with this idea and created this concept, it's a concept that exists. It is this person called George Orwell, right? So I guess he named it off for his last name. So George Orwell came up with this concept, and it's a primarily in a book that he has written called 1984. Now it's a book I might say up front, first off, that I've never read, but I heard the concept so much that I just kind of get the bare bones of what is it that he's trying to say. So I'm gonna go by the bare bones. So if you probably have read the book, you'll probably have different takes on it. I'm just taking from the skeleton of it, and the reason why I to talk about this is because I've heard so much talk of this idea of an Orwellian dystopia over the years that I just found it fascinating that most of the time when you hear people talk about it, they're worried about Big Brother watching you. And I've heard that for years. I'm like, okay, so Big Brother watching you, and we're in a kind of a totalitarian, we could be existing in a totalitarian or heading towards a totalitarian regime. This idea here that there's going to be habeas corpus, something like that, where the suspension of the Constitution, and then we're in like a draconian state. So that get me thinking, and so here am I. Want to explore this with you as we do motivation, but I'll be going Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I think I'll cut it off before Friday. So I'll probably do 4 days on this, probably 5. So this is interesting, right? So I'm gonna read to you what an Orwellian dystopia is in a second. But I wanted to say first, again, my topic is do not create an Orwellian dystopia. It will become your reality. So allowing an Orwellian dystopia on one group of people can cause it to happen to a larger group who are executing the system. What happens when the machinery of a dystopia is built and functioning? It becomes hungry. So it becomes hungry. So dystopia is a state of society that, as I say, many people they're very fearful of, because it is a state and that is an imagined or society in which there is great suffering or injustice, typical one that is totalitarian and post-apocalyptic. Right, so keep it in mind. So a state, again, I'll read it for the sake of continuity again. So dystopia is a imagined state or a state or society in which there is great suffering and injustice, typical one that is totalitarian and post-apocalyptic. I think it would be apocalyptic also for those who are living underneath it, or post-apocalyptic, however you want to say it. So after everything fall apart, right? Everything is falling apart and crazy, that you have basically an dystopia. So everything fall apart, and then you living like on a Mad Max regime where it basically is a suspension of the Constitution. So I say this before I read it anymore. That remember that George Orwell himself, he is from Britain, so he's writing it in the context of where he is living, right? So we keep that in mind. As I say, I'm going to try to break it down to a certain degree to set up the rest of the week. So this idea here is taken out of his thinking, and as I say, the reason why I'm exploring it is because over the years I've heard so many conspiracy theorists and people who are talking about stuff use it. So if you look at this idea here, I'm going to read first John chapter 8 verse 36. John 8 verse 36 says, if the Son therefore shall make you free, you shall be free indeed. So tomorrow I'm going to talk a little bit about God, is if God is running a dystopia or running a Orwellian dystopia. Because if the Son of Man make you free, you shall be free indeed. And so if you're living free, then you want other people to live free. We know though that sin creates bondage, and sin put other people in bondage, because part of sin is that you abuse others and you basically you torture, you kidnap, rape, all those things. That's not freedom for the other person. So God is anti-freedom. I mean anti-sin, because sin is against freedom. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. I'm jumping ahead of myself. So sometimes it's good to stay on the paper. So back to the paper. So Orwellian here is an objective describing a situation, idea, or societal condition that George Orwell identified as being destructive to the welfare of a free and open society. It denotes an attitude and a brutal policy of draconian control by propaganda, surveillance, misinformation, denial of truth, or what we call doublethink, and manipulation of the past, including unperson, quote unquote, unperson, the unperson, a person whose past existence is expunged from the public record and memory. Practices by modern repressive practiced by modern repressive governments. Often this includes the circumstances depicted in his novel Particular 1984, but political doublespeak is criticized throughout his work, such as in Politics and the English Language. So those are important uh, point there that it's noteworthy. So each of those points, I'm going to break it down in this Monday here introduction, because it's important to break out down all what we just read, right? And this is where my thinking come from, because you say, well, why would this be important to you, and why would this be a whole week and a motivation? Well, over the years, after observing I listened to firstly the conspiracy theorists break it down from their point of view, and they would break down for the videos I watched in the past, from probably in the 20s, in my 20s, coming all up. As I watched these videos, what I came up on is that I clearly understood what they were trying to describe. They were describing somewhat the earmarks of a state like this. Like today we have the NSA, we have the various different CIA, all these different investigative apparatuses that operate in secret. So this is part of the thing. So they're fearful of that, and they're fearful that if they take our guns, we might be under this type of regime, and so our guns is our protection. But you notice there's an emphasis in the summary here, and that summary I just read from was from Wikipedia. You just type it in, it'll be the first thing come up. So I just use the first thing most. I probably accepted this description of what an Orwellian state is. So notice there, it's either double speak or double think. So over the years, as I listened to the description of an Orwellian state, and I listened to the description of what they're describing, and then I read my newspaper, and then I read the history, the last history, say even the last 100 and something years in America. What my conclusion is, and my observation is, it's like if I took their discussion and said they're not talking about themselves, they were talking about Black America. and what has happened to Black America over the last 100 years, 200 years. I would say that every single thing you would describe, and I'll go over it in a second here, would be that according to my observation, Black America has lived under an Orwellian state. So that's my premise. I'm going to explore that, not fully, more probably today and Thursday. It is this idea here that you're living under oppressive regime, but the regime is not primarily just physically oppressive. It is oppressive, thought oppressive. And as I go through it, bear me out, you listen to me, just like how you listen to those conspiracy theories, if you do. And then if you go back and listen to them, and you start to layer what I'm saying, you can see how what they're describing is what happened to Black America. If you see it, and I'm gonna make my case because I think this is important to consider. It's a different way of thinking about life, but you can see. And remember, my topic is one has to do not create an Orwellian dystopia. It becomes your reality. And again, allowing an Orwellian dystopia on one group of people can cause it to happen to the larger group who are executing the system. What happens when the machinery of the dystopia is built and functioning? It becomes hungry. Because remember, at first, all the things that they're worried about, that this current state, the current apparatus, they're saying Washington, D.C., to come upon them. When I say them, I'm talking about white males. Specifically, if you look at it and you analyze their videos, you say, wait a minute, but that's what's happening in the Black communities. That surveillance state always existed, that draconian system to imprison and to falsely imprison and create what we call the modern day war on drugs, to stock the prison system and to destroy the lives of these young men over small amount of drugs and stuff. So that system was in place. But they're just worried about the system becoming they becoming the food for the system. But when you think about it, that's the problem. If you allow an evil system to rise up amongst you, one will not think that that system one day could eat you. And it's been, if you've been following what's going on in Oklahoma, and I'll cover some of that on Thursday, is that what it is that the Oklahoma judicial system started eating its own, and now they have to start making changes to it, because when it was eating others, primarily Black Native Americans, it was fine, but the system got out of control and it started eating its own. So this is where this is a problem where you created a dystopia. And again, a dystopia is where there's great suffering and injustice, typically one that is totalitarian and post-apocalypse. And so post-apocalypse could be the civil wars. After the Civil War in America, we came up with Jim Crow. It was totalitarian, it was post-apocalyptic, and it was unjust, and it was a lot of suffering. But if you listen to the people break down what a totalitarian, they normally don't include that and say, well, yeah, that's post-apocalyptic. It was a war, there's destruction, and now you have to rebuild, and then somebody's gonna get the bad rap, so to speak, or bad treatment. Who's gonna get it? We're gonna give it to those, because we have to rebuild our system. So notice here, I'm going to read it again and I'm going to break it down piece by piece. Orwellian, right? Because as I said, never read a book, not planning to read a book, but because I heard they talk about it so much, I said, let's understand a little bit more. And when I look at it, I said, this is absolutely can be applied to the plight, post-apocalyptics, to the plight of those who came out of everything. After the civil rights movement, if you look at what happened to Black America, it was post-apocalyptic again. And you immediately, they declare war on drugs, and who the war was against. The war was against those who were in the Black communities, post-apocalyptic. Notice, Orwellian is an adjective describing a situation, idea, or societal condition. So it could be a situation. So that's why I said do not create this, because you could create an Orwellian dystopia in your house, or amongst your family, or in your community. It is absolutely that, because it's a situation or an idea or a societal condition that George Orwell identified as being destructive to the welfare of a free and open society. Because if you create a machinery that creates great suffering and injustices to one group of people. Now the machinery is created, and now it becomes a risk to a freedom and a free society. It denotes an attitude and a brutal policy of draconian control by propaganda. We'll go over all of this in a second. Surveillance, misinformation, denial of truth or doublespeak, and manipulation of the past, including the unperson, a person whose past existence is expunged from the public record. Like if I give you an example, I'll talk about this again. If you say, let's do a black museum, they say that's racism. But if you say do a Jewish museum to remember the Holocaust, they'll say, oh, that's great. We should remember the Holocaust. So why you don't remember what happened just 200 years ago, or what happened to this group of people, but you want to remember what happened to that group of people? And then you use the Holocaust as a means to oppress the Palestinians. So it's a ploy. And notice here, the person or a person whose past existence is expunged from the public record and memory, practiced by modern repressive governments. Often, this includes the circumstances depicted in his novel, or in his novel, particularly in 1984, but political doublespeak is criticized throughout his work, such as in politics and English language. That doublespeak thing, you can see how real it is, because that part is very important. Because remember, it's not just physical, it is propaganda. So notice it's destructive to the welfare of a free and open society. So first thing I want to analyze here with you. So think about this. It is destructive to have a surveillance state. It creates this idea here that there is no trust. There is an automatic distrust of one group or a person. So it's the same if you're married and you have to track your wife or you have to track your husband. Then that it creates a certain environment that is not conducive to freedom. This concept here of an Orwellian dystopia can be layered up and layered down. As a matter of fact, most things I talk about can be layered up and layered down because I'm always fascinated how these things work up and down the ladder. See, if you're in a home and your relationship with your kids is a dystopian, is an Orwellian dystopian, you constantly have to physically and do things to make sure they stay in line. It's a physical stay in line or keep the straight line. They don't stay in line because, they love you and they respect and you can trust them and they can self-monitor. You're always worried about that they might do something wrong or they might, get too big for their britches. Anyhow, so destructive to the welfare of a free and open society. Because a free and open society is what you would normally call the United States. You say United States is probably the freest. I would think it's the freest nation on earth. But if you have this area in town, say one group live in the borough and one group live in the township, and the people in the borough, I think, or the town, they go to the township. I can't remember which one is which because in most places that's how they have it, at least in New Jersey here. So I think it's the borough has it better, and then the township have it rough. Now, normally you find the black people in the township, but in the township you have more surveillance, you have more police activity. Now, what they said, talking about misinformation, is that the misinformation is given out that, well, because they have more drugs over there. See, that's the idea. Where the drugs come from, they're not manufacturing the drugs. So how did the drugs get there? Oh, he has to come through the borough and get there. So is there surveillance of the borough? No. So what happened? The borough is not being surveilled, but the township is being surveilled. And so now you can have more arrests from the township. And this is what has happened historically in America. This is uncontroverted information. So what you get now, you get more surveillance, more police action, and you create now a dystopia where one group now is being subjected to more arrests because of their human failing, their human weakness. The other group now is not getting that surveilled, but they have the same human weakness. They still love drugs. So their drugs now is being taken now and it gets out of control because nobody's monitoring it. So there's free flow of drugs. And then you have what we call today our drug epidemic. It's a simple process because dystopia was only created on one group of people. The suffering and injustice was only on one. So one group lose their parents to the drug epidemic or lose their ability to make money because now they have they're felons. They have a felony on their charge. So we notice there it is anti-free society because it is only focused on one group. So, but somebody could say, oh no, it's because they love drugs more and they're more violent. Think about it. Chicago, south part of Chicago is more violent, but south part of Chicago has no gun manufacturing. They have no bullet manufacturing, but there's just a constant flow of illegal bullets. Think about Mexico. Mexico only have one, I was reading last week, one gun shop in the whole country and that gun shop is on a military base. So you have to go to the military base to buy a gun. And so it's locked down. But the places are washed with guns, and they say 70% of the guns are made in America. So you find that somebody will say, oh no, because it's just they're black and they're bad. In Chicago, well, think about it. You could be in Afghanistan in a mountain, and they could say they have an embargo against you can't buy or sell, and they can limit your ability to buy or sell. But you can't have no system to track guns and know if it's getting in the hand of, if it's being illegally sold. So there is ways to basically block somebody in the middle of Bora Bora or wherever those places are, in the middle of the mountain. You can't buy anything or sell it without you having an embargo and shutting them down. But you can't track anything. So this is the kind of stuff. It's like double speak. We're going to get to that in a second. So it is a destructive to the welfare for free and open society, because free open society has to have a level of trust. You have to have that. It's the same thing in your home, in any institution. The moment you start to have to spy, you call a company, this call is recorded for such and such and such. And I understand why. Because what happened is a level of distrust where if you call a company and you could say the worker said something to you and they didn't say anything, the company's being sued. So I understand that to a certain point. So you get what it is. So then that's to tell you that there's distrust. But is distrust real? Notice again, it says it denotes an attitude and a brutal policy of draconian control by propaganda. So keep that in mind. It denotes an attitude. So it's not just the policy. It says it's just a way people behave. There's an attitude towards it. Plus, there's a policy. Because if you look at like the Rockefeller drug law, you realize there's a policy. If you get caught with this amount of drugs, you get this amount of time. So you get caught with crack, you get 10 years. You get caught with cocaine, you get 1 year. 1 year. Then who used cocaine more and who used crack more? Well, initially the report was blacks use crack more. But then recently when CDC came up with a real number, what they found is that whites use crack at a higher rates per population ratio more than blacks. Then what would happen? Well, let's say what it is, more surveillance happened in the black community. So there was more apprehension. So it seemed like if you go by the arrest numbers, there is a higher percentage of use in the black community. Here's another thing. You talk to many people who are conservative, they'll say to you that says 70% of the crimes happen in amongst blacks. Well, here's the thing. If you look at the milk cartons, you'll find that most of the kids disappearing are white kids. Just disappear, never to be found. Who's investigating that? And I always knew this from I came in to America. I always knew that this was something that was a big problem. The kids is getting snatched, disappear. Most of the little young girls, they disappear. But who? So one could say, oh, most of the crime depends on the crime. Think about it. Wall Street crimes. Over these years, you see all the crimes, even causing the economy to crash a few years ago. How many people went to prison? I remember there was one person that was, I think, Indian descent, went to prison from that. Nobody went to prison, except probably an Indian guy. They give him the rap and say, I guess he took down the economy. He took down the economy. It's crazy. So you see this, and you can see this is a dystopia. And this is misinformation, because if you look at the arrest rate, you realize, wait a minute, but certain crimes are not getting prosecuted. Boom. And then you said that's the number. That's how the crack epidemic happen, because basically you could have one group using it but they never get arrested. So it creates this false narrative, propaganda again, that is only these people have, dopamine receptors in their brain. We are not all created with dopamine receptors, so hence they're the dope fiends. And here they're rapping about it anyhow, but the rock and rollers rap about or sing, if you whatever they do, about dopamine, about their fixing up their dopamine receptors. Me Too movement, what did it prove? Again, talk about propaganda. Me Too movement proved that says everybody was sexually being assaulted, or not everybody, but every group had sexual abuse going on. But one group kept it quiet while their women suffered. And then later on, they come out and say, "Oh, so they're horny over there, and they're basically perverts over there also." So it proved that's a misinformation can be a powerful thing to suppress people. So notice it denotes an attitude, a brutal policy of draconian control by propaganda. So the control is by propaganda. You think about so many institutions that you have, and basically there's a propaganda arm. I can't remember it. It was in my on my tip of my tongue. It's called Something of America. It's a radio program. All of a sudden I forget the name. Uh, Anyhow, so there's this radio program that's very famous inside the U.S. and it's a program that if you read up about it, it's Something of America radio broadcast. But if you read up about it, what you'll know real quickly about that program or that broadcast is that it's illegal for them to um, share it within the United States. It cannot be shared in the States. The reason why, because it's basically it is created for foreign countries to sell propaganda to these foreign countries. It's it came if we call Radio Free America or something like that, something along that line. And if you look at that, you will see quickly. It doesn't take much time. You'll see quickly that that's like a propaganda arm. And this is what it is. This is the type of stuff that happens. So you can sell a certain information and it sounds a certain way, but it's not really true because it's not backed by hard data. Notice here, it's controlled by propaganda. It's not controlled by the police. The police is doing a job. Thanks for that text here. It's the voice of America. Praise the Lord. That's the name of it. Sometimes the brain doesn't work 100%. I would say it never works 100%. So the Voice of America radio broadcast, right? Is if you look at it, go and read a Wikipedia, right? I write up about the Voice of America, and it was so dangerous that in my mind, as a propaganda arm, that they had to ban it. They basically, the senators said we can't allow that to be broadcast in America. It will confuse the people. And if you look modernly at many of like, say, for instance, a Fox News, from what I've watched, it is totally like a Voice of America, just done for America internally. So it's important to understand how propaganda works. It's controlled by thought. It's not controlled per se by the surveillance. The surveillance come after the thought has been established. Next thing there that says, what you call the Orwellian dystopia, is built with surveillance. So we cover a little bit of that. I won't spend too much time here, but I'll say this. So it's covered by surveillance because you have to build a system that basically controls information or control flow of information and know who's getting information and whatever. Because remember, a big part of it, they say that the person is radicalized. So you say, what is that? Because the person don't go along with the state and go on the state take. So the person is radicalized. And in areas like this becomes a very important idea because you have to control information, control who's doing what. See, back in the Dark Ages, it was the Jesuits and the priests. They had the confessional box. So that confessional box was used to be able to get intelligence on people. Because if I confess my sin and you know my sin, who has control? You have control because you can use my craziest, deepest madness against me to shut me up. Well, if you go back and look in America and look at what the FBI under one of the famous people who run the FBI, Hoover or something his name was. If you look at his way, how he ran the FBI about 50, 60 years ago, it was a draconian state. And there's no question about it. The information that he basically would just keep information on various different senators and congress people, and he controlled the country basically by that information. Another important point here is misinformation. So you can give misinformation on a group of people and justify brutality, or hide the brutality by not giving information. So it's just total misinformation. You can run a misinformation campaign. A misinformation campaign is you go to school and they tell you that blacks, they intimate, because sometimes it's not clearly taught, but the takeaway is that blacks is inferior because of evolution. Or they'll say blacks can't do certain position, like blacks could not run the presidency. And remember, you're black if you have a one drop of blackness in you. So if you even 5% black, you're black. So when you have President Obama, it creates a problem. And notice the people mostly anti and obviously just 100% against Obama would be people very conservative, who would have been brought up into probably at the end of Jim Crow law into the 70s when they became adult, and they would view someone like that as he doesn't have the ability to run the country. It's misinformation. It's just total misinformation. So everybody has a brain. It's just a brain. You can use it or you can lose it. That's what they say, right? No, think about this also. Even in sports, because I remember years back I'd heard this concept that it would be difficult for a black guy to run like quarterback position, or a black person to be a winning coach. So you kind of put forward this idea that, well, the person is inferior, right? So hence the brain can't do certain jobs. It's just brute. It is brutes. And so then can you brutalize a brute? Yeah, because you make it non-human. If you ever study how America goes to war, you can see this idea here. And most countries do this. What they do, they demonize or create a boogeyman. And they demonize the boogeyman so much that when you kill the person, whether it was deserving of death or not, that's not the issue. But the person is brought down to a monster. And so now when a person is murdered, you say, well, that's acceptable. That's why you go to court, right? Because you go to court and you prove without a shadow of a doubt that this person do a heinous crime. And then you execute the death penalty. So the death penalty is based upon, is this person a monster? So if you see the person as a monster, then murdering the person is justifiable. And we accept that. That's part of how human psyche work, and that's part of how truth work. But misinformation, you can create a monster. And then now anything you do to that monster is justifiable. And so if somebody comes out now and say, well, probably that person not the monster that they say they are, then that person is wrong. Or if that person say, watch the person who's putting out that information about monsters, because probably they're monsters. They say, oh, that person is wrong. We need to destroy them. So you have a process of misinformation and disinformation and all that type of stuff. So you look at that, and it would be hard for you to look at the history, and you would not see that this was a major campaign that went on. Because remember, the campaign never stopped at slavery. After civil rights, then you went to Jim Crow. After Jim Crow, you went to the war on drugs. It's one misinformation of other to keep one population down and to make another population go high. And this is just so fascinating. So, and somebody says, so why is this important? Again, just in case you join me late. Because when you watch the conspiracy theories, all the things they were about the Freemasons, the Bilderberger, the Mossad, the Jews, the this, the that, the that. But everything they're worried about, and they say in future we're going to have habeas corpus, the suspension of the Constitution. All of the Constitution was suspended on Black America, in slavery, in Jim Crow, and in the war on drugs. But they never see this. They only see the suspension of the Constitution in the future when it could affect them. But they don't see that, wait a minute, in America there's some people who don't have a constitutional right. Think about it. 100 years ago, somebody said, "Oh yeah, we don't have, the government. We have to have guns because the government might take away our constitutional right." While people living amongst them don't have any constitutional rights. Remember, even women didn't have constitutional right to a certain degree. So you have a situation where people living amongst you don't have a constitutional right, and you're just worried about you losing yours. But by creating that environment, you're creating an environment where it is basically is destructive to a free and open society. Because if you're not getting yours, I might be able to lose mine. And a lot of people now who are older, they find out that they lost their constitutional right. And now they're old and they had created a system that basically have no respect for those who are weak. And if I'm afraid of evolutionists because for him, he eats the weak. So if I'm get weak, he's gonna be like, it's time for you to be eaten, Lloyd. And they start to sharpen that knife. Think about it, denial of truth or double think, right? So a denial of truth or double think is something that is also we call double speak in politics. Now, one of the best practitioners that I've ever seen is this lady called Kellyanne Conway. She is a master at double speak or double think. It is to double speak or to double think is to deny truth. Now somebody say, "Wow, I will never pick that name." If you, I must say the name again, and when you have time, you don't have to watch more than probably 3 clips, and you'll be amazed. Master manipulator. This is one of the best I've seen in years, and that's when you know that we're living in a good time where a female can come up on this list because you would think I probably would choose something like Bill Clinton. I'm familiar with him, but I've seen, they say like when they asked him when there was a Monica Lewinsky trial if he ever smoked weed, I think they asked him marijuana, and he says he I think he took it in his mouth. The idea was given away that he took it in his mouth, but he didn't inhale it or he didn't get it down into his lungs or something silly like that. Like they say, we're just good at double speak. But I've seen Kellyanne Conway. Just look up that name. Go to YouTube. Watch a few clips with her. You'll be amazed. You can't ask her any question. You should just flip it. It's just constant flip. She's always in a flipping mode. It's just you. You can never say, "Did the bridge fall down?" Well, why don't you worry about the other things that's going on in the country? There's other things that's going on that the president is concerned about. Why are you asking me about the bridge fall down? It's never answer a straight question. It's always this question comes, it goes, that something, it goes. And when you understand this, you understand how, if you say to a person, is the Rockefeller drug law right? They'll start talking about blacks do more crime than any other group of people. But that's not that's not the question. That's double speak. You're answering the question in the acts. But then when you say, okay, let's answer that question. Let's deal with that. Then they flip and go to something else. And they say, okay, let's deal with that. Then they flip. So if you hear me talk, it's over the years of observing people who double speak and they insert something new. So then you say, okay, let's go to there. And then if you go there, they insert something new. Now, where did I see this first? I didn't actually see this first in politics or in society. I saw this first in church. It's actually church got me to be aware of that. When I would deal with somebody that's like a false doctrine, and you say, well, let's go to this text. They'll read the text. They have this kind of like, I don't know what to do here. And they go, and they flip and say, let's go to this other text over here. I say, okay, let's go. And next thing you know, you're on a new topic. And you're on a new topic with them. And then you're there figuring out, how do I get them back to the original topic we started? And then you get them back there and they just do a flip again. And next thing you know, you're in an argument. And next thing you know, they left. And you left. And you're like, man, we didn't get nowhere. The person is a master manipulator. They're just constantly spinning. As I say, in the spin room, normally after a speech or something happened and people come and start to spin it. And they just don't come and say, you took a loss. And you were wrong. Oh, no, I'm not wrong. I'm going to spin this one. No, you're wrong. So denial of truth or double think becomes part of it. Because you don't want to face the fact that some things are the way they are. Because you want it to be the way they are. Notice here, manipulation of the past. So the past is manipulated to sell it a certain way. I remember when I first heard about Martin Luther King Jr., I didn't see the point, honestly, because I didn't know much about him. They didn't talk about him when I was young much. You didn't get him. And over the years now, I've understood why. I couldn't see the excitement. I couldn't see why He's the only human being in American history that has a holiday dedicated to him when it comes on to his birth, I think. Something like that. The Martin Luther King days are like something to do with his birth. The only person that celebrate like that. So he said, then he has to be significant, but I don't get him at first. I couldn't get it because the only thing was familiar with, it was just one thing I felt familiar with him. It was the I Have a Dream part of the speech, a snippet from the speech. And I was like, I still don't get it. I'm like, okay, that's nice. That sounds kumbaya, all Billy Roses. But then you go to a place like northern part of Philly and certain places, you're like, man, this place is rough. That whatever dream Martin Luther King have, that didn't work. So what's going on? Until the first time I heard the whole speech from start to finish, and I was like, this speech has nothing to do with what that I Have a Dream. The I Have a Dream part is just a snippet that is the most whitewash probably part you could whitewash from the speech. But when you listen to the whole speech, and I realize if if it's 100 Americans, probably 90-something% of them never heard the whole speech. They don't know what he's standing for. It's just amazing. It is. They go to them, and they say civil rights leader, blah blah blah. You don't get him until you listen to a speech of his, and you be like, oh, it's totally different. It's not what I thought he was. I thought he was just all talking kumbaya. He was intellectual, and he was very profound in his thinking, very religious, you know. So notice here, manipulation of the past. You whitewash it. You want it to get away. So notice a lot of what been happening in societies, like the Black History Museum, the thing on the mall with Martin. You're trying to put back this. They try to put in the genie in the back in the bottle. You try to get it out because you're trying to put the past there because one has to be able to face the past. This is why tomorrow I'm going to cover with God. Does God run a dystopia? When you read the Bible, God don't hide what happened. God said, hey, this is what happened. Somebody said, I don't like that because there's negative there. And God says, I'm not trying to hide, whitewash the past. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you that I burned these people up. I just burned the whole city down. I'm not going to lie to you. That's why I love God, because at least I know what I'm getting. I know what I'm signing up for. God is not trying to hide who he is from me. He's saying to me, Lord, this is who I am. I want you to love me. And somebody like, yeah, but God don't like sin. Yeah, but he loved the sinner. You figure it out. So notice here, manipulation of the past, including the unperson, a person whose past existence is expunged from the public record and memory. Come on now. You read that, and you could bring me 100 people and they read it and they can't see. And I read it and I'm like, wait a minute here. But that's what happened. Because again, as I said to you, I've had so many people, and I hear somebody talking. I said, let me ask you this. Have you ever listened to a speech by Martin Luther King Jr.? Martin Luther King Jr. And he said, no. And I said, aha. You see, but you've heard that clip. I have a dream that one day this one and that one will walk together in happy times and taking some mental health drugs and hearing hearing birds singing. And I'm like, that's what you heard, right? All right, now listen to this speech. And I'll be like, wow, I didn't expect that. Yeah, that's what you see. You see why they killed him, right? Now you get it. They're not going to kill somebody making a speech about have a dream. That's nonsense. They won't kill nobody for that. That's beautiful, that poetry. They kill him for this over here. You see, so the unperson, a person whose past and existence is expunged from public record and memory. They don't exist. Or you manipulate it. This is one of the things I'd learned over the years. If you think about my idea of Native American Indians was just these cannibals that are barbaric people that would make the sound and they will attack, and that's it. That's it. Now, where did I get that from? From all the country and Western movies I watch. So you have no idea. Nobody ever say, hey, Lord, you need to learn about the Trail of Tears. Trail of what? Trail of Tears. What was that? And you learn about it, you're like, why didn't do a movie about that? Oh, because that one looked good. You see, so it is the unperson. You whitewash the past. See, this is all Orwellian we're talking about. But if you apply it to a group of people, especially a group of people that's oppressed, then you see how quickly, whoa, It's a different way of viewing how the society works. So include the unperson person whose existence is expunged from public record and memory. So now you have to go back and dig up to try to find record of what happened, how did it happen, who did it happen to, why don't they want nobody to know this? Because again, that's how you maintain the state. Because if I say to you the same group of people, forget about the party, same group of people did Jim Crow, did slavery, did the war on drugs. Same group of people keep passing these rules. The same group of people now that are anti anything to do with taking care of the environment. They're pro-war in the Middle East and around the world. It's the same group of people. So that group of people wouldn't want you to learn what has been their history and their politics and their decision, because if you learn that, then you might see them in a different way and you might not approve of their methodology and their laws, and you might oppose it. So they want to expunge the records, so you kind of have to create unpersons because you don't want their testimony to get out. Because if the testimony get out, they might show a different history. So what you do, you say, well let's approve a holiday, but let's never make nobody hear the speeches. Because if they hear the speeches, they might say, oh, that's why that group murdered him. Because you got to expunge that. Those people never existed. They just make them disappear. So you say, well, look at this. All of this is built by this. And you say, well, these people contribute. Well, yeah, they contribute. Well, we don't want to talk about that because that might change your view of how things are. Notice here, it's practiced by modern repressive governments, right? So this is something that they say is practiced by modern repressive government. Now, that I'm not so certain about, although that's what it seems like from those who read George Orwell book, the Orwellian Dystopia, or what you call 1984, come away with. Well, normally, if you notice, they like recently they had this vote in the Congress, I think it was, to condemn the Armenian genocide. But normally that's what kind of a genocide is. You normally just whitewash, you clean, sterilize from this group of people, about this group of people, so they never remember. Like if you think about the three kingdoms that was uprooted by the Catholic Church in the Dark Ages, they're viewed as barbarians. But they opposed the teachings of the church. And so the church decided they need to be removed from the face of the planet. And then to label them as barbarians. Now, were they barbarians? You don't even know, because they were just removed because they oppose a dark system. So you don't even have a proper record of who they are, what they taught, so forth and so on. Just remove them. Remove the history of them. So you can't prove or disprove. That's the aim, at least. Who got removed? This is so. So I would say it's not what you call a modern system. This is an old system. This is a Dark Ages system. So to say it's practiced by modern repressive government. The Catholic Church did this for 1,260 years. And it prospered in the sense that it created the Dark Ages and created a lot of suffering. Because remember, the whole idea is that it's supposed to create suffering. It's supposed to create a society that's a closed society. It cannot be an open society. This could be said, I would think, also of some of the regimes that are religious, political regimes, like in the Middle East. You look at some of these places, you would say they're not open societies, they're closed societies. And they're basically a surveillance state. But remember now, they're surveilling their own people. So the idea that a group of citizens within a country can be treated this way is nothing new. Because you could take that concept and apply it to many countries around the world. And you could find that you could have a minority in the country that is in a dystopia. And somebody said, well, the country is not in a dystopia. I went to that country. The country is beautiful. Imagine if you were the guest of President Kim Jong-un, I don't know if he's a president or he's a king, and you went there, you're free as long as you're with him. Everybody else is on the dystopia. He's not on the dystopia. So you could go there and thinking, oh, I had a phenomenal time, excellent time. We just lick it up. We just enjoy the beauty of it. But you're not on the dystopia. He's the one that controls it. Everybody else is under that surveillance state. Then you pull back and you say, wait a minute. But everything he does, he has no freedom either. Because he's in a prison. He's just the head prison guard. And then you pull back that layer again and you say, wait a second. So if I'm in a prison and the prison is run like a draconian state, me, the prison warden, if I'm the warden, and I'm the head prisoner, I'm also a prisoner because I have to maintain that system. So I become the darkness in the system. I become dark. This is why you don't want to do that, because you're basically creating your own world. Now, you might be the head of it, but you're the darkness. This is why I believe in what God does. So it's practice, it says, by modern thinking. I don't think that per se. Now, another little tidbit, because I said we're going to talk about some more as we go on the next few days, is the class of hierarchy of Oceania has three levels. So the place that this gentleman here, George Orwell, created in his imagination. And as I said, this is no endorsement or of the book or the concepts of the book. Just analyze it because, as I say, I've heard so many conspiracy theory. They talk about it, but they always fail 100% of the time to analyze the theory based upon what happened to Black America in America. And they didn't realize that their system had people living in an Orwellian dystopia for over 200 years. So notice here, three hierarchical classes in Oceania, which is the setting of the book. The book was set in London. And the three hierarchical classes is the upper class, the middle class, and the lower class. These are always three classes in society. He puts the number here at 2% for the upper class, 13% for the outer class or the middle class, the outer party, and the proletariat or the lower class is 85%. These are the population that are the workers, right? These are the people that work. That's it. Now, when you think about that, one of the reasons why America is in a better state than what he's described here, because although there's a 5% upper class, what you call the 5% that are controlling most of the wealth, the numbers, I think, a little bit more flipped when it comes on to poor class and middle class, that there's more people in the middle class than is in the poor class. One of the problems happening is this, that I think is important to note, and this is a major note, is that why it doesn't feel like a dystopia. It's only feel like a dystopia for those in the poor class, and especially those in the Black communities. It's probably less now, but more in the past. It was more in the past. Is that money can be a great equalizer. And I know a system, any system that have it where the largest class is poor, is a system that oppression is easy to execute. So what's happening? As we see through technology and other means, there's a concentration of wealth. And think about it, which group again? Who is pro concentration of wealth because they believe in trickle down theory? It's the same Jim Crow group of people. Well, anyhow, so if you look at it, as you concentrate wealth, what you have is that you have an erosion of the middle class. And the middle class become smaller and the poorer class become larger. And what it is, because the concentration of wealth, the economy can do well under the amount of resources in the hand of the 5%er, while more and more people go into the proletariat and they become working poor. And they're just there to keep the machinery going to make the rich phenomenally wealthy. Now, again, when you think about that, and think about, this is why I say when you create a system that maintain poverty in one group, that group can start now basically become like a black hole, and they start sucking in all the other people in them, in their section, in their grouping. And now you start having a problem now where it goes from 13% poor, and it start to go towards the numbers where George Orwell talks about, which is 85% poor and 13% middle class. This is darkness. So as we move forward, you see there's going to be a constant concentration. Now think about it. The economy is doing good, while the policies are for more tax break and more opportunities for the rich, so that the money can be concentrated. And this is an open policy that if you go to most people out there, they say, yeah, I'm pro, if I'm conservative, I'm pro concentration of wealth in the hands of the rich. But that will create darkness, because that would be a third world nation. You think about when you say third world, to me, the one thing that defines a third world is not that there's not good sanitary conditions and stuff like that. It's just that there's too much poor and too little rich. I mean, too much poor a little bit of rich, and a little bit of middle class. That's what he's describing here. That to me is a Orwellian dystopia. And many countries are Orwellian dystopia because that's what it is. A little bit of rich, a little bit of middle class, and everybody else is just dirt poor. And now you can have all kind of draconian rules and propaganda and all kind of stuff. And you're there, you'll be like, man, this place feels crazy. Where am I? Oh, I'm in India. You just could pick a place on the planet and you can do that. But what's the point again? My point is, do not create an Orwellian dystopia. Will become your reality because it becomes a problem. Last 3 points I want to make of this, just to kind of close it out, so when I move forward, you kind of know what I'm talking about if you did listen to Monday, most naturally. As the government, the party controls the population, there were four ministries. He creates this concept of the Ministry of Peace with war and defense. So the Ministry of Peace deals with war and defense. So you think about it now, you can know when a country is going in the wrong direction, where it focuses less on defense and more on offense. So instead of you having a Ministry of Defense, you have a Ministry of Offense. Oh, they're more offending, they're more starting the war. When you know the policy becomes, we have a preemptive strike against a boogeyman. So you create a boogeyman and you do a preemptive strike. But just in case he strike you first, you strike him. So it's like I'm upset with my neighbor. So I talk bad things about the neighbor. And I go over to my neighbor and attack him because he could have attacked me. This is concept. This is the official policy right now. Notice a Ministry of Plenty, and it deals with economic affairs. But in bracket is really rationing and starvation. So it sounds good. It sounds like, oh, and these welfare queens in the ghetto, and they're getting all this welfare. But you have a war on drugs. You took away their husbands. You gave them prison records. You destroyed the school system. So the school system is subpar. So people wanted to bust their kids out of school because their schools were so horrible in their community. But you said there's a Ministry of Education. But then people could say, well, that's a different thing. I'll deal with it in a second. So rationing and starvation. Ministry of Love deals with law and order, but really it's torture and brainwashing. So you brainwash the people, you torture the people. I'd predicted it that, and I'd said that what happened in Abu Ghraib, I would say it's going to happen. I knew it was going to happen because what it is, you have the prison wardens and the prison workers who were running these death camps or these draconian prisons instead of the United States that basically had black people that they could experiment on or abuse. You send them now to Iraq. These are real enemies because they say, well, they had weapons of mass destruction, so everybody in Iraq should be tortured. And what you get Guantanamo Bay, you get Abu Ghraib. Because if you were doing it to them over here in the prison, then you go over there, you're just like, oh, I'm gonna beat them to smithereens, right? And shoot them in the streets. Notice here, Ministry of Love was just basically torture and brainwash. And so notice it was on the President Bush that you had this idea. And everybody was afraid of the President Bush because they were afraid that what was being done through the NSA and through all these different organizations and in Guantanamo Bay, so that these guys were going to come back, they're going to come back to our prison. But I think the average person wouldn't have to worry about it because guess what happened? They were already prisoners in the prison. It's just those guys want to come back and work in the prison system, and they were going to now apply some of those torture methods to the prisoners. That's why you don't want that type of stuff to develop around you, because when it develops, then innocent people get tortured. And remember, a lot of people now being freed by the Innocent Projects were people that was accused of rape. Rape is always one of the big things because there's always this innocent little female that everybody's raping. And now you send these men to the death row because they raped and murdered some person. Then you find out who's doing most of the rape. Oh, it's their same people raping them. But then you blame a black guy. And then now you have the Minister of Torture who were trained at Guantanamo Bay or Abu Ghraib. They come back and they torture these rapists because that's your big target in prison, rapists. Imagine they saying, oh, this black guy over here, he's a raper. He raped and murdered this white girl. Forget about it. And he never did it. And then later on, you're free him, but you've been beaten, drugged him, torture him. And if you say this, they say, oh, no, we need to focus on the Freemason, the Bilderbergers. We need to focus, Lloyd, because that's the true conspiracy. Really. And that's who's causing suffering in our society. Who they do? Now, I would say probably if you do an investigation and find out who's really causing the torture and suffering, you probably find out, yeah, it's these Freemason types and these bigger brother types, but who they're torturing, then you say, oh, they're torturing the black people over there. Notice the Ministry of Truth deals with news, entertainment, education, and art, but really it's just a ministry of propaganda. So you could have propaganda even in your movies like Rambo and First Blood and all this type of stuff. It's just propaganda. It's just propaganda for the war machine. So we're going to talk about that for the rest of the week by God's grace. If we see the rest of the week, let us pray. Our Father who art in heaven, we thank thee again for the blessings of today. We thank thee for the blessings, dear Lord, of your truth that set us free. May you bless us, dear Lord, that we might be free and accept your freedom. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you again live tomorrow morning where we should talk about the importance of church. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.